going to be a good one. All right, let's get it. Let's get it. Let me shout everybody out here. We got on the call. I see Alex. I see Crystal. Diane, was good. Eric, I see you on the call. Jacques up in here. And Sam, good to see you guys. All right, let's get into it. Okay. Title of the call: do you see yourself as a leader? Very, very important question. You don't have to type it in the chat. This is a rhetorical question for you. Do you see yourself as a leader? And this is a one-on-one, you versus you. I'm going to look in the mirror and I'm going to get real type of question. How do you see yourself? I was listening to a couple things, one of the podcasts that I'm listening to right now, and they talked about what an opportunity, we're in today to step up and lead. Right now is the greatest opportunity in history to step up and truly live and lead, your life and be an example. It's also the hardest time to be a leader. And the reason being is because we're in a season right now in this world where everybody's focus is just about themselves. It's very like self-preservation, like survival. Everybody's in fear. Everybody's, their focus is on themselves and their issues and their problems. And, if you're going to call on the word of God or whatever you believe in, it's not about that. We can't live in a state of survival. We can't live on defense. We can't live in a state of fear, and also be able to live on purpose and give and lead by example if we're just on ourselves. And this is a leadership call. And, we decided, all of us here have made the decision. Hopefully you're still showing up, you're still staying consistent, that we not only want to, learn a skill set inside of this academy, but we truly want to step up as a leader. And that's what I want to go into this call today. But the first part of this is you have to accept what it means to be a leader. You have to accept the responsibility that comes with the title of leadership. Everybody wants the title, the rank, the position, the power, the proximity of what it means to be a leader, what it means to hit a certain whatever. But not everybody has, everybody admires that, but not everybody has accepted what that really means. They haven't accepted the responsibility that comes with it, the stretching process that comes with it, and everything else in between that we're going to talk about today. But do you see yourself as a leader? That's important. Write it down, let that marinate after this call, get real with yourself. And I want to leave you guys with this quote, and then we're going to start. It's easy to sign up. Okay. It's easy to sign up, but it takes consistent effort and belief to keep showing up. It's easy to get started. It's easy to, sign up inside of what we do, swipe your card, put your money down, whatever. That's the easy part. Everybody thinks that's the hard part. No, that's the easy part. It takes consistency. It takes perseverance, keeping the faith, consistent effort and belief to keep showing up, even on the days, most importantly, on the days in the moments where you just don't feel like, you should keep going. That's the most important. When you don't feel like going, that's when you got to go. That's when your good habits or your momentum that you've had in the direction that you want to go is starting to fade. And you've got to nail it down. You got to keep repeating that muscle that you're moving. So I want to give you guys on this call 4 things. Okay. What it means to be a leader, what it means to operate as a leader. And this isn't the end all be all 4 things. These are just 4 things that I've been studying. I've been living out. I don't think just this past couple of weeks, but for the last few years. And I'm not perfect, but it's something I've stayed diligent on. It's something that I've dedicated myself to and committed to. And I want to share that with you guys. Okay. So if you want to write this down, 4 things, we're going to rock through these. Okay. And hopefully after this call, you can take this information and you can ask yourself, where of these 4 things am I applying? Or maybe I'm not applying. Where's the gap? How can I close that gap? Okay. So number 1, okay, in order to be a great leader, in order to operate at your highest, your most effective, highest ability, capacity of contribution, okay, you must make people the passion. You can write down, people must be the passion. Number one is people must be the passion. And this is number one, because anything and everything that we do, whether it's around trading, whether it's around coffee, whether it's like, it could literally be anything. People must be the passion. Whatever your business is, whatever organization that you're leading, whatever you're doing, people make a place. People make things great. And if people are not the passion, they're not the focus, they're not the, what you're putting first, okay, you're going to be more, you're not going to be leading on purpose, okay? People create the culture, people create the community, people make whatever you're doing great. And if you are leading outside of that, and maybe you're so focused on, getting a certain result, you're like, Abby, I haven't got to sign up in a long time, or, whatever the case is, or, I haven't gotten this result, or I'm frustrated with this. If you're so focused on me, my problems, I haven't done this, you haven't gotten a result in XYZ. If it's only about a result, you may say subconsciously or consciously that people are the passion. We talk about people are the passion, like, yes, it is. And we can say that sometimes, but subconsciously, we're still operating as if we got to hit a certain result. And if it's only about a result, you will be willing to use people to hit a bottom line. Okay. And we have to be able to catch ourselves when we're thinking that way, when we're feeling that way. It's not that we don't like people. It's not that we want to throw people under the bus. It's sometimes our needs, our wants, okay, will sometimes kind of cloud over the wants and the mission of the group, of the organization, of the whole. And as a leader, that's not a healthy, sustainable place that we can reside, not for very long, or you won't have anything to work with. It cannot be just about you. And that's a lot of times what's holding people back from really auditing themselves, from really stepping into that next level of leadership, is they're still so focused on themselves. They haven't truly made people the passion. They're still focused on a result. And you'll be willing to use people to hit a bottom line if that's your focus, okay? It's kind of like with your trading plan. You will be, if you say your goal, if let's say your favorite educator says, type in the chat, what's your goal for your trading this week? And some people are typing in dollar amounts, $500, or, I want to grow my account by 15%. Well, the same thing applies here, is if that's your goal for the week, let's say, or for the month, are you willing to not follow your plan in order to create that result? Does that make sense? Let's say you're like, I want to sign up 3 people this week. Are you willing to cut corners and maybe lie or do certain things that are out of character or not in alignment with the mission and with the purpose just to get that sign up? See, it's about the plan. It's about making people the focus. Okay, so that's number one, making people the passion. People must be the passion. Number two is you must live and lead by your priorities. This is another major one. Okay, if you're going to say, I'm going to operate, at the highest level that I can, or moving in the direction of, who I can be as far as a leader. Okay, your version, what God has designed and called you for, living and leading by your priorities is a non-negotiable. And as a leader, you can't lead by preference. This is a great question. Are you leading by preference, or are you leading by priorities? Are you leading by preference, or are you leading by your priorities? Are you leading with your priorities? Because leaders lead with their priorities. They don't lead by preference based on the moment, based on how they feel, based on their moods or their attitude change. Okay, leaders live by their priorities. Do you have a list of non-negotiables that you knock out the park every single day? And I'll be honest, it's not every single day that I'm knocking it out the park, that I'm killing it. But I do have a set of non-negotiables that I make damn sure I'm getting done. It's not, half the time it's not pretty. Half the time, like, there's things that come up, I have my schedule, and this happens, or maybe you get called into work at a different time, or maybe this person calls you and you don't usually get phone calls at this time, and you haven't even done your your morning word or your prayer or your journaling, and you haven't taken care of you, and you haven't filled up your cup, and you got to take care of that first for whatever reason. Okay. And then you get, then you get back on track with your non-negotiables. Okay. As a leader, it's important that you keep your non-negotiables at the center, that your non-negotiables are things that are going to move you forward in your growth on your leadership journey. And you're making it about the mission, about the purpose, about that sense of hope that we're giving to people. But the biggest thing is you can't be on these mood swings. You can't be like, this came up and this happened. I can't show up this week, or I can't be there on this call. That's why these calls are so important, because I know it's early. I know for half of us, it's 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Arizona time. For some of you guys on Eastern time, it's a little earlier, 9 a.m. But like, we would show up to a job if it was at this time. We would show up and clock in on time if it was for somebody else that was putting money in our pockets. This is for your personal growth. This is to help you become the best version of yourself. And it also creates accountability if you look at it that way. If you're coming here with an attitude of gratitude, and I'm going to get into that in a second. But what are your non-negotiables? Do you have a list of like a core power list that you're following? Are you living based on preference, or are you leading based on priority? It's a very, very important question. You got to get real with that. True leaders are living based on priority. They're not living based on preference and mood swings and things like that. Okay. That's child's play. That's rookie mistake. That's amateur hour. We don't do that. You can't do that. You can't afford to do that if you truly want to be used as a vessel to do God's work, to do great work. Okay. The third thing, y'all with me? The third thing that we've got on the list is major commitment to excellence. Number 3, you've got to have a major commitment to excellence. Okay. And what does this mean? I'm going to break it down. Okay. Excellence speaks volumes. Think about somebody that you look up to, you respect, you admire, and think about what they do, how they do things. They don't miss a beat. Excellence is in the details, and people can feel the spirit of excellence. And they can also see, okay, the spirit of mess. They can also see the mess that's around you. So either you're living in a spirit of excellence or you're not. And either way, both speak volumes. And leaders, okay, leaders that are stretching their capacity to operate at their highest level, that are living on purpose, that are getting out of survival mode, okay, and they're living in abundance, they're not living in, there's scripture a part of this, but they're not living in their mess all the time. They're not missing the details. Okay. Excellence. They're living in their excellence. And I want to share this with you guys. Okay. Excellence isn't just about, doing the work, doing our non-negotiables, making the things that we have in our life a priority isn't just about doing the work. Like, it's not enough to just do the work. It's important to recognize that what's actually imperative is not just the work that you're doing, but the excellence that's attached to it. It's going the extra mile. It's doing things with precision, with like, I actually care. I actually give a shit. That's what this is about. Excellence is having some sense of like, I want to give that extra little bit. I actually care about this. You care about the work that you present, and the people around you that are watching you, your team that watches you, they see that. And as leaders, we set the standard. Like, don't just take in what I'm saying as I've heard this before. I know this, Abby, this is great. I can't wait for next week's call. Like, you've got to be owning this stuff. You have to be taking ownership of the words that we're saying, of the things that you're hearing, of the things that you're learning. Like, how can I take ownership of this in my life? Excellence is in the details. Okay. I think something that's really important too to think about is when you think about greatness, when you think about doing great things that matter, things that are purpose driven, things that are going to, create true impact and change, nothing great will not cost you. I've never done anything great that didn't cost me. Okay. It's not just about the work. It's about the excellence attached to it. And I want you to write this down a lot. This is the last part. I'll move on to number 4, but everything that you do, excellence is about doing everything that you can do, but doing it wholeheartedly, doing it with your entire being. Okay. I'm not doing this. And this is a great reminder. You're not doing this because when you start to make it about these things, I'm gonna read off to you. That's when you are getting back on me. Like, oh, it's all about me. It's about my problems, about my goals, it's about my blah, blah, blah. And you're not making it about the people. You're not making it about the mission. Okay. You're not, everything that you do, you're not doing all this just like, you're not working this hard just for a paycheck. You're not working this hard to hit a rank. You're not doing all these things to have a position, to prove anything to the world. That's not why we're working so hard. As leaders, that's not why you're working so hard. I heard somebody say this the other day. They were talking about entrepreneurship and how everybody like looks at like, it's such like, there's so much stigma around entrepreneurship and like, false claims of like what it really is versus, what it's not and things like that. And he was talking about how like entrepreneurship isn't even about like the money. Like it's about the work that you get to do, because when you're maybe, only working a job there, it's different than entrepreneurship because you don't have a sense of leverage. You don't have a sense of freedom. You don't have a sense of, I can create something that's not just your own, but that can create some sort of long lasting impact. It's about, maybe building an organization and having a mission, driven purpose that you can really impact people. So he was just kind of talking about that, but he was like, stop making it about just the money. The money comes when you're following suit, when you are staying perseverant to the mission. Okay. So excellence is about the details, excellence in all that you do. It's not just about the work. It's about the excellence in the detail and the care and the concern that's attached to it. And the other thing too, is God's watching your stewardship anyways. He's watching your diligence. He's watching your devotion. He's watching your excellence in all that you do. And God, they say this in one of the podcasts I was listening to, but he says, work comes from God. So God gave you the work that you have. God gave you the people around you. God, and I don't take that for granted. I know that's grace, but he's watching what you're doing with what he's given you. And if you can't work with the small things, then you won't build a capacity and a character to receive the big things that he maybe has in store for you. Okay. So that's excellence. You have to have a major commitment to excellence. And number 4, I hope you guys are ready. Number 4 is having an attitude of generosity. Number 4 is having an attitude of generosity. And this was big. This was probably one of the biggest ones out of all 4 that like hit me like a ton of bricks. And maybe it will for you, maybe it won't. Maybe another one on here is like, nope, that was the one I needed to hear. That's the one I need to focus on. We gotta work on all these, but maybe one just like hits different. So attitude, first of all, is contagious. You can't hide your attitude. Okay. And as leaders, it's very important that we check our attitude often, that we understand that our team and everybody, like as leaders, people are always watching. Okay. And you can't think for a moment that they're not. You can't have an ego with it. Like, oh yeah, people are watching me. You can't like have an ego like that and make it prideful, but you have to be aware. You have to have self-awareness of, yeah, I know people are watching me. So I can't like there's no room for laziness. I can't afford to be that anyways. And you have to like, goes back to some of the calls that we did the other week on, ineffective and effective behaviors and, states of being and what's going to put you in an ineffective state and what's going to, allow you to have effectiveness in your work. And this is kind of going hand in hand with that is, whenever I'm in an ineffective state, I'm self-serving. I'm only thinking about myself. And leaders, they don't do that. Great leaders that are actually mission driven, that put people first, that, they live and lead by priority, that they have a major commitment to excellence. That's not their state of being, majority of their time. They've learned how to bounce out of that and make it about other people. And I'm not perfect. Like I get into, modes and whatever, where I'm having a pity party for myself. And, great leaders, it's not about like fear doesn't exist. It's, I know how to bounce back. I know how to recognize it and move on and understand the greater, the greater mission that we're working with. So attitude is contagious. Your attitude, the things that you do, how you carry yourself, your heart, all of that, your care and your concern matters. You are the standard. Okay. And you have to accept that. I don't wait around for like my uplines or my mentors to make things happen. And that also doesn't mean I go off of course and try to do my own thing. I'm still aligned with the greater goal, but I also recognize like I'm the standard of my organization. I'm the standard for my life. I'm the standard for, when we walk into a room, I'm going to create the standard. And you've got to think that way too, if you want to be a great, effective leader that's mission driven, purpose driven. Okay. And with that, this is like pinnacle. Okay. Having with that attitude of gratitude, it comes by being generosity. I want you to write that down. Okay. An attitude of generosity. When you can get this in yourself, that's when everything around you will start to change. When there's generosity breathing, okay, on you, within you, like when God gets inside of you, he just breathes generosity. Like he will make use out of you through generous acts. And for example, let's say for example, you have that attitude and now you're bringing that to your team. The entire lid that you're working with on your the people around you, like I could give you, I'm trying to think of some examples, but I can promise you, you've been in an example or an environment where maybe it was like kind of awkward, or everyone was kind of self-serving or, preserving, and everyone was kind of to themselves. And then somebody like kind of opened themselves up and, gave a little compliment here and there, or a sense of encouragement, or, their energy was just different from everybody else's. And it completely changed the whole dynamic of the room. And because they were leading with generosity, they were coming into the room wanting to give instead of taking. And that's the part that we've got to change. When you show up to different rooms, when you show up to calls like these, I know you're receiving right now, but coming with a mindset of how can I add value today? How can I serve? How can I help? That's a leader's heart right there. How can I help? How can I put, people in a position to win, to be better? How can I add value? Okay. When generosity is in the room, the whole lid for yourself and the people around you, your team, whatever, comes off. And it doesn't have to be everything about money. Oh, I bought you this or whatever. And we don't keep receipts. Great leaders, they don't keep receipts on the things that they do or the things that they buy or whatever. Okay. They just do it. So when you go from that state, you go from selfish to servant. And that's what great leaders are. They're servant driven leaders. Okay. This has got to be the attitude, generosity. And they were talking about how your world is just a reflection of your sowing. So if you're living in a small world, check your sowing. If you want to receive opportunity, check if you're giving opportunity. We have an opportunity of a lifetime to give to people. But when everybody says that they're sharing this, they're talking to people and they're giving it, okay, great. But when you're giving it, how's your heart? How's your framework? How's your attitude? Are you just looking for them to say yes to a video? Or are you just looking to, tag people just to get numbers up? Like, what's your intention? What's the heart? What's the temperature of your heart when you're trying to sow? Okay. My world is a reflection of my sowing. And how can I reap opportunity if I'm not giving it? If I sow generously, I may reap generously. And you got to ask yourself, what kind of world do I want? Do I want a little world? Do I want a big world? Okay. If I want a big world, if I want great friendships, great relationships, a great organization, a culture that's formed around, generosity and excellence, okay, and dedication, like devotion, you got to ask yourself, am I sowing those things into myself? Because whatever's on the inside is going to come out on the outside. And that's the type of tribe, okay, organization you're going to create for yourself. Am I sowing generously? Am I sowing with opportunity? Okay. When generosity is pure, I'll read this to you. When generosity is pure, okay, it's an example of how God loves us. And I know some of you guys on this call, maybe you're like, Abby, you keep saying God, I don't believe in that. Okay. I'm sorry. Put somebody else in that blank. Okay. But it's an example of how he loves us, and he does it. He gives whether we return the love or not. And we want to get to that level of attitude and generosity in ourselves. And ultimately that will breed into our culture, into the people around you. Remember, you set the standard. You set, this is how we operate. And when you start to get people to understand that, because you just keep living it without question, like non-negotiable, that's when you're going to start to attract the right people, because they will look at you and say, this person, I can trust this person. This person's reliable, because that's what that breeds. Trust, loyalty, reliability. People open up. And that's a good thing that you want to have inside of your culture. Okay. The last thing that I'm going to say about generosity and having that attitude is when you can exude that type of giving, okay, it's going to lift the whole place. It's going to swing the mood. I want to challenge you guys. Next time you're in an environment, it doesn't even have to be with your team or a team or whatever. Next time you're in a room and you're around other people, have that attitude, okay? And we've got to adopt it where it's not like, oh yeah, I got to be generous right now, or it's kind of just a part of you, okay? But I challenge you, next time you have the ability and the opportunity to sow, generosity into another person or into a room, do it and watch what happens. Watch the entire energy transition change because of just one little action, which isn't little, it's a big thing. But in the moment, it may feel small, but it's not. Okay. The more generous you are, the more opportunity, write this down. The more generous you are, the more opportunity you have to add value. And this doesn't mean you have to spend money to be generous. You can do things with your time, with your energy, with your attitude, the way that you carry yourself, the way that you talk to people. Okay. Your encouragement, that's huge. Your encouragement, your uplifting words. Okay. When you talk to people, don't have your attention on outside other conversations. When you talk to people, make sure that they know that you're listening because you're looking at them, you're watching them, okay? The more generous you are, the more opportunity that you have to add value, okay? And to close up this call, I hope that you guys have gotten value so far. I hope that you guys are taking notes. But the last part of this I wanted to share with you, and I kind of said in the beginning, but right now it is the hardest time to be a leader. But that's not an excuse to not be a leader. Okay. People right now, and you may notice this, you may see this, you may even catch yourself at times going down this road. And that's why we had the calls the other week where we talked about how to bounce back, how to get out of that ineffectiveness, that ineffective state where you're just in survival mode, when you're living on defense. Okay. Your life is only revolving around you, and you can't possibly live on purpose and really truly make an impact and lead by example if you're still in survival mode, if you're still living out of fear, if you're just looking out for yourself. And I get it, you got to take care of your bills, you got to make sure that food's on the table. I get it. What is that? Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like, I understand that, but you can still operate whether you use your money or not. You can still operate and train yourself to live with an attitude of gratitude, to live with a major commitment to excellence, to live and lead based around your priorities, not based around preference, to make people the number one focus, to make people the passion. Yeah, I like trading is amazing. I've learned the skill set. I've learned so much through, how to manage and budget my money, where to put my money. how to, and I'm learning this, but, how to, control my emotions and have that discernment and increase my emotional intelligence. Okay. I've learned, and think bigger. I've learned so many things from this platform, but what makes this whole thing great? It's not, vector games. It's not, Fibonacci. It's not, whatever's going on, whatever next new thing that they're putting out, which is awesome, but that's not what makes this great. People are what make this great. Okay. Companies don't go bad because of the product. Maybe that's in like a worst case scenario, but it's because of the people. It's because of the leadership. Okay. This is there's never been a greater time to step up and be a leader. But I just gave you 4 things that you can apply and you can start to create discernment with in your life, and how you're really living those things out. You're really leading by those things. And it's not just something that you think about and you're like, oh yeah, let me be generous here. Or, maybe I should do this. It's like, it's got to become a part of you. Okay. To be generous. The world of the generous becomes bigger. The world of, a taker, of somebody that's only living based on preference, based on themselves, is small, and they'll always live small. They have a small soul. They have a small heart. Okay. Leaders, we don't live like that. It's different over here. There's a lot of things that we go through, but you got to make sure you're growing through it. So how do you operate as a leader? I'm gonna leave you with this. How do you operate as a leader? You got to give a little bit more than maybe you're receiving. Okay. You got to give a little bit more. You got to go the extra mile. You got to make people the passion. Okay. And you've got to lead with your priorities. Okay. And that is our call for this week. So I'm going to end it here. Let me stop the Zoom.